Oh, that was a really scary moment there where I thought there was going to be a horrifying photograph up on the stage, and I was trying to think of some really funny stories I could tell you about Guy in Nepal, but I'm going to hold on those for now. Thank you so much for that incredibly beautiful welcome, Guy. It's quite humbling and a real honour to be welcomed by an innovator and a leader, as you all know, Guy Fowler is. It's a huge delight to be here today, and there should be a clicker up here for me somewhere. I think, Sarah, can I have that? And I just want to say that beautiful welcome to country and that beautiful Yadaki didgeridoo start for us, for me, is the most appropriate way that I can start talking about philanthropy, because I've spent the last 20 years of my life trying to learn from elders and trying to honour the wisdom and not try to repeat the mistakes that those who've gone before us have made. And that's really what I want to talk about today in terms of philanthropy. I've got a real bee in my bonnet that as we start to get into innovative philanthropy and talk innovative philanthropy, we're starting to disrespect traditional philanthropy in some ways. And so what I want to talk about today is how it is that we can innovate without throwing the baby out with the bathwater, without forgetting about the incredible philanthropists that have gone before us. And to start that line of thinking, I want to tell you a wee bit of a story. I want you to imagine that you are this young boy high up in the Himalayas. And where you live, it's 25 days walk from the nearest road. And your life is very food insecure. You spend a lot of time for your mum and your dads out and about trying to make sure that the yaks are properly herded and trying to make sure that the harvest is brought in. And you actually are really quite a good learner and interested in learning, but unfortunately for you, in the community you live in, school only goes to year 8. And because food security is the priority, education can never, ever be the priority. And it snows for 3 months of the year, and you can't walk from your village anywhere else in the snow. And if you get really sick, you might have to walk about 5 days to get to a clinic, and when you get there, there may or may not be staff there, and there may or there may not be medicines there. But you really, really want to learn. And then somehow, somewhere out of nowhere, comes a woman from London, or comes a story of a woman from London who's setting up a scholarship program for remote kids to go to school in Kathmandu. And you get this extraordinary chance to go out of that community for the first time, and it's like going to Mars to go out of that community. It's that scary to go down into Kathmandu to go to school. And you go down to Kathmandu and you go to school and you're really, really good at it. And the next thing that you know, you get a scholarship to study sociology, and it's a Fulbright scholarship, and you're in New York. And you're now about as far away in terms of worlds as you can imagine from where your life began. You are the absolute pride of your community and your family. And you never, ever meet the woman who changed your life. This kindness from a stranger in a faraway land is the beauty and the power of traditional philanthropy. This characterises for me the model of giving, the great model of traditional philanthropy that we have seen for years and years. It's the same model that has given us almost the eradication of polio. Past philanthropists and future philanthropists ensuring that that is going to happen. It's the same model that funded research that gave us the yellow fever vaccine. It's the same model that Andrew Carnegie set up 3,000 leading lending libraries so that people who couldn't afford books could go to a library to read. And it's the same model that has seen educational support for little boys and girls all over the world, even in the most remote Himalayan village. For Adara, this model has had real impact. We have seen this model save lives. And for me, the epitome of it was last year through the horrendous Nepal earthquake, when hundreds and hundreds of Australians dug really deep to stand with Adara during the earthquake with our teams and our work all over Kathmandu and on the ground. So simply put, good giving really, really saves lives. Traditional models are not something to be abandoned, in the rush to innovate. Traditional philanthropists are not dinosaurs. They are the pioneers in health and education and social justice. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. But now let's put that all in the context of the world that we're living in. I know this slide is kind of funny but kind of terrifying at the same time, right? And we all know what's going on in the world. We are living in a context, a global context, where even if you put together all the wealth of all the generous philanthropists, large and small, it is not enough to deal with the inequality we are facing, the trillions of dollars of need and the shift that we're seeing in wealth distribution across the world. We now no longer need to just think traditional philanthropy or even innovative philanthropy. We need to think about bringing down borders and changing construct across all discipline. Let me just give you 3 statistics that say it all for me in terms of where we are as a world. The 62 wealthiest people on the planet have the combined wealth of the bottom 3.6 billion. The next statistic for me is this. The average CEO pay since 1978, between 78 and 2014, has risen 1,000%. The average worker's pay in the same period has risen 11%. And one final statistic. If you're a woman and you're born in Australia, you have got a 1 in 4,900 chance of dying in childbirth. If you're a woman in sub-Saharan Africa, in beautiful Uganda, where we've been working for 20 years, that chance is down to 1 in 36. What does that spell for us? Extreme inequality and rise. It spells for me time to drop every barrier and start thinking out of construct. Time to embed the beauty of traditional philanthropy, the highest order of a human being, to give into every part of our society. And for me, that's an imperative not just for the philanthropic sector, the non-profit sector, the private sector, the government sector, for the advocacy sector. It's an imperative for every single one of us on the planet. And in doing that, as we innovate, as we reach across divide, we have to embed the key tenets of philanthropy into every single sector we're working in. So this is the Adara piece of that story. This is how we think. This is our tiny contribution. And it sounds, hugely glamorous, but gee, we've made a lot of mistakes. Oh God, I've made so many mistakes. I can't even begin to tell you. It has been such a journey of joy and tears and such an honour. Thousands of people who've stood with me to build this. But it's nothing more complicated than first one and now 2 corporate finance businesses that I set up to use the power that financial services brilliance has to generate money to feed a non-profit that I set up at the same time all those years ago. Our work now touches 50,000 people a year in poverty, and we're amongst the world's leading specialists, and proud to say it, at really, really weird things like neonatal intensive care to babies in places where there's no electricity, or rescuing kids from the trafficking trade, or providing support to places, health and education support to places so far, far away, like the place that little boy I was telling you about came from. Guy Fowler, your photograph is now up, I'm glad to see, even though mine wasn't. Adara Partners Guy talked about this. It's something that we launched last year. It was a bit of a birth of madness and passion. And in fact, I had a moment after we launched it where I woke up the next day and thought, am I crazy? I just launched another startup. But it's very simply a model that I believe really matters, and it's a model of creating a panel and finding a construct where the lions and the lionesses of the financial services sector can run corporate finance transactions pro bono, using their mastery absolutely for purpose, and all those fees going to support our work and people in need. And I can tell you that Guy ran a deal for me for Adara, and the amount of money he made us is more than it costs us to run a hospital that services 700,000 people a year in Uganda, 70,000 of them who have HIV, for 12 months. It's only a little step, but it's our little next step, and it's a step that we truly hope, and a model that we truly hope will be replicated in financial services centres worldwide. Now, impact. There's a lot of talk about impact, and I can give you a whole lot of really great statistics about impact, But actually, rather than that, I just want to tell you the story of a couple of the people. You know, so many people have touched my heart, this incredibly joyous journey I've had. And that woman with the 2 little babies, I took that photograph of her, and as I was, they're twins, and they're her only children. And she'd walked 4 days into our hospital, and that's kangaroo care, where you teach mums, they have low birth weight babies or preterm babies, you put them up against your skin, and it really improves their outcomes. She had walked in for days to the hospital, and she had one baby wrapped up against her. When I picked up the camera, she freaked out, and she said to me, no, this is a twin. If the one over there in the incubator knows that this one's had its photograph taken with me, no, you have to wait. So it took her half an hour to unwrap and rewrap to honour both her babies, and that's the smile we got. And then if you look at those 2 gorgeous girls in the top left-hand corner, they're 2 gynos of my 139 children that I have a particular love for, and when we pulled them out of basements in the child trafficking trade, they were 3. So the impact for us has been right down to the individual, the beauty of individuals, and also to a much deeper, bigger piece in terms of impact. So our work in neonatal care has now produced a learning and understanding about how you get breath to tiny, tiny wee babies, where you blend air and oxygen and you don't need electricity. 1 million babies a year die in the first 24 hours of life because they can't get air and oxygen blended, and we finally cracked the nut on that technology. 1 million babies the size of the prize for us is 1 million babies a year, and that's because of 18 years of kind of joy and tears. Other innovators, one of the great things about being an Adara is they all come to see us, and I had this really funny moment about a year ago when this very cool dude from the States, who's quite a senior leader in the space, which means he's about 14, came in to see me, and he said, Dad, I really wanted to meet you to get your advice because, in our space, we consider you heritage. And so I said to him, I have some advice for you. The first piece of advice I've got for you is never, ever again call a woman heritage. Anyway, the wonder of the Gen Ys and the millennials, these are just some of the incredible innovators we're seeing in this country, and there are so many more, and we're seeing it right across space as all these kids and great philanthropists backing them are starting to create these new models that are out of construct, beyond boundaries, beyond barriers, that are going to change the world. So let me bring you back to the question, is philanthropy future ready? My answer is loudly yes. We have always been future ready. Philanthropists are the visionaries. We are Starship Enterprise, where no one has ever gone before. We're the pioneers, and we always have been. And we're the ones, big and small, who don't wait to hear what the government's policy on changing charitable legislation is. When there's a catastrophe, we just fund and support. We're the people that have met unmet needs, and we're standing on the shoulders of giants who taught us how to do that. And in this age of radical transparency, the pioneers are the Gen Ys and the millennials who are doing amazing things with the radical transparency of the internet and the information age, and we stand amongst them. And that is an honour. I'm going to take you back to that little boy from a remote community. His name is Anjuk Lama, and he manages all our programs in the most remote place that we work. He runs a staff of 12 fellow Humlis, and he's managing programs that touch the lives of 9,000 of his fellow community members a year. So the traditional philanthropist supported a brilliant little boy who came to work with an innovative philanthropist. And isn't that really just about the perfect circle? I want to let him have the last word.
When I was a kid, I never saw electricity. I didn't know what electricity is. I didn't know what it is to have a toilet or having a drinking sort of water next to your house. I just simply didn't know.
Anjuk was born in Humla, a beautiful but remote part of Nepal near the border of Tibet. It has always been a hard life for the villagers, with limited health services, under-resourced schools, and the extreme cold meaning families run short for food each winter. But the Humli people are committed to changing their lives, to give their children a brighter future. Adara and the Humli community sat down together to find ways to improve their health and education.
And when I was a kid, I still remember, like, when you get sick, or your parents or you, when you get sick, with simple headache or diarrhea, you just bear with it, because there's no medicines available, no one to give you medicines, and if things get worse, you might have to, walk at least 3-4 days to get to one of those nearest health posts to get treatment or medicines. Oftentimes, those health posts, they're run by government. They don't have someone to give you medicine, or there's simply no medicines in that region.
And so, the mobile medical camps were born. Now, with the support of Adara, thousands of Humlis are treated every year by expert Nepali doctors. When the camps are not running, a Tibetan medicine practitioner travels from village to village providing free Tibetan medicine. We also work hand in hand with the government of Nepal. Together, we make sure the local health posts are improving so Humlis can access year-round care. We wanted to stop the deaths of 2,000 Nepali children who die each year from diarrhea caused by unsafe water and poor sanitation. With the construction of pit latrines and education programs that challenge generations of behavior, Humli people's approach to health is changing. Traditional cooking methods have been hurting Humli's breathing and respiratory health. So the introduction of smokeless stoves has been welcomed by young and old. And the nutrition and food are also improving. Now every household has access to a greenhouse, providing them with fresh green vegetables all year round.
It takes really time, but when you stick around and be persistent and work with them and try to educate them, things can change.
As well as health education, the Humli community have embraced the expanded opportunities provided by improved classrooms, teacher training, basic educational supplies like books and pens, as well as scholarships to ensure every child has the opportunity to learn and grow.
Whatever they learn at school, they come back and share with their parents, share with the other siblings. I think that's really sort of they are not only learning, they are also teaching their parents or their other family members.
Attitudes are changing towards education. More and more Humlis are now sending their children to school. And girls who traditionally were excluded from education are thriving in this environment. The first school Adara ever worked with, the Yalbang school, now has over 300 students. It is so greatly admired, it is now a model school for remote education in Nepal. And with quality education at their doorstep, children no longer need to be sent away to learn. This also reduces their exposure to child traffickers. Adara is so proud of the changes we have witnessed in Humla. We will keep working hand in hand with the Humli community to make sure all children have opportunities for a bright future.
I see the changes happening in that region, and that's really touching lives of people in need, including my own family, my own parents, my own siblings. We're so happy to be part of this wonderful organization and people who work for this organization, and we have done so much, and we still have so much yet to do.
Thank you.